Good afternoon. This is All India Radio. I'm Anuja Kumar, and with me is Abhishek Mukhopadhyay with the Midday News. The headlines. India achieves a remarkable feat of conducting more than 4 lakh COVID-19 tests in a single day. 10-day complete lockdown comes into force in Bhopal from today. India and United Kingdom affirm their commitment towards free trade agreement. 2 terrorists killed by security forces on the outskirts of Srinagar. And relief and rescue operations continue in flood-hit Assam and Bihar. India achieved a remarkable feat as more than 4 lakh samples were tested for coronavirus in a single day. Indian Council of Medical Research said that a record 4,20,898 samples were tested for coronavirus within 24 hours. So far, laboratories have conducted 1,58,49,068 tests in the country. Starting from less than 100 tests per day, a multiple-fold increase in a few months was made possible by dedicated teams of research institutions, medical colleges, testing laboratories, ministries, airlines and postal services. More from our correspondent.
The government has adopted the test, track, treat strategy for early detection and containment of the COVID-19 pandemic. The central government has advised all the states and union territories to keep up the strategy of aggressive testing, tracking and treatment to deal with coronavirus crisis. To become self-reliant in testing, government has promoted the indigenous manufacturers for developing equipments and materials required for COVID-19 testing. In January this year, India had only one testing laboratory for COVID-19 at National Institute of Virology, Pune. Today, more than 1,300 government and private laboratory chains are testing coronavirus samples across the country. ICMR is continuously ramping up its testing capabilities by approving new laboratories, RT-PCR kits, TrueNet test, CVNet test, and rapid antigen test kits. India is also producing millions of high-quality, low-cost testing swabs at a fraction of cost of the imported ones. However, in spite of these developments, access to testing still remains a huge challenge in a large country like India. To deal with this challenge, Health Ministry and ICMR has asked the states and union territories to include additional testing methods to improve the availability of testing. Bhupendra Singh, AIR News, Delhi.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will virtually inaugurate 3 new high-throughput labs of the Indian Council of Medical Research in Noida, Kolkata and Mumbai at 4:30 p.m. on 27th of July. The government has adopted the test, track, treat strategy for early detection and containment of the pandemic. According to this, ICMR has ramped up its testing capabilities to effectively deal with coronavirus crisis. The central government has already asked the governments of states and union territories to ramp up the testing capacities.
Centre has asked 9 high COVID caseload states to ramp up testing with special focus on containment zones. These states are Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Telangana, Odisha, West Bengal, Assam, Karnataka, Jharkhand and Uttar Pradesh. These 9 states are driving the present spurt of the active caseload in the country. Cabinet Secretary chaired a high-level virtual review meeting with Chief Secretaries and Health Secretaries of these states yesterday as a part of the Centre State Coordinated Strategy for effective containment and management of the pandemic. Cabinet Secretary had a detailed review on the state-specific COVID response strategy with the health secretaries and other state officials, as well as the factors that were leading to rising caseload in these states in recent times. Areas of concern with respect to low testing in certain states was highlighted. It was reiterated that sustained and aggressive testing is crucial for early identification of cases and to prevent spread of infection. Cabinet Secretary stressed the need for prompt and proper delineation of containment zones as per the guidelines of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, intensive contact tracing and house-to-house active cases search within the containment zones so as to effectively break the chain of transmission. The attention of the states was drawn to the fact that early detection and timely clinical management is the key to contain the spread of COVID-19. Pune-based MyLab Discovery Solutions has scaled up productions and development of its COVID-19 Patho-Detect testing kit with strategic funding under National Biopharma Mission of Department of Biotechnology, DBT. The Secretary, Department of Biotechnology, Dr. Renu Swaroop, has said that in the fight against the current pandemic, having indigenous supplies of qualitative RT-PCR test kits was identified as a critical need in enhancing testing ability. She said scale-up of Maya Labs PathoDetect production was a step DBT took in that direction. Currently, Maya Lab has a manufacturing capacity of 2 lakh RT-PCR and 50,000 RNA tests. Maya Lab has obtained the approval of the Central Drug Standard Control Organization and ICMR to manufacture for NAT, HIV, HBV, HCV and for detection of novel coronavirus. The company has recently launched a molecular laboratory machine, Compact XL, that can manufacture various reagents as well as perform many molecular tests in a single machine unit. The machine will help in setting up molecular diagnostic labs in rural India as it eliminates huge infrastructure costs.
The total number of patients who recovered from COVID-19 has reached around 8.5 lakh mark today. The COVID-19 recovery rate has now improved to 63.53% in the country. The Health and Family Welfare Ministry today said that a total of 8,49,432 people have recovered in India so far. In the past 24 hours, 32,223 people have recovered from the disease. The Health Ministry said a total of 48,916 new cases of COVID-19 has been reported in the country within 24 hours, taking the total number of cases to 13,36,861. Presently, the total number of active corona cases in the country is 4,56,071. In a single day, 757 deaths have been reported, taking the nationwide toll to 31,358. However, the case fatality rate is continuously declining in the country, and it reached 2.34%. Our correspondent reports that in terms of the recovery rate of COVID-19 cases, Delhi stands at the top with 86.40% recovery rate, followed by Ladakh, Haryana, Telangana, Assam and Gujarat. In these states and union territories, the recovery rate is above 72%. 16 states and union territories have better recovery rates than the national average of 63.53%. In terms of the number of people who recovered from COVID-19, Maharashtra is leading the tally, followed by Tamil Nadu, Delhi and Telangana. There are 30 states and union territories which have lower fatality rate than the national average of 2.34%. Among the total number of active cases, 68.33% caseloads are from Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh. In our series Experts Speak on All India Radio, we bring you the views of some leading medical experts on COVID-19. Talking to AIR News, Director at AIIMS in Delhi, Dr. Randeep Guleria, advised the people to aggressively follow the social distancing and hand hygiene norms to check the spread of COVID-19 infection.
Regular hand washing should be done. So those who in an area where there is coronavirus infection should wash their hands regularly. You should avoid going to crowded places because if someone in the crowd is coughing and has the infection, he can spread to others in the crowded places. And if any member in your family has fever, cough, cold, he should stay at home and avoid going out so that he doesn't spread the infection to other people in the community.
Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal and Health Minister Satyendra Jain today jointly inaugurated Burari Hospital, which has a capacity of 450 beds for COVID patients. In his virtual address, Mr. Kejriwal said addition of these beds will increase the bed capacities in the city. Appreciating the improving COVID-19 situation in Delhi, he said, combined efforts of people of Delhi, state administration and the central government have reduced the number of COVID cases and deaths in the city. He said increasing recovery rate reflects the commitment of all engaged in dealing with the pandemic. Congratulating all health workers, he said, the hospital will serve the people of Delhi.
In Madhya Pradesh, a 10-day lockdown has started in the capital Bhopal today and police personnel have been deployed everywhere. 2-day lockdown has been declared in many districts of the state including Jabalpur, Gwalior, Damoh and Panna. Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan is tested positive for COVID-19. He said he will be in self-quarantine and will get treatment according to government guidelines. More from a correspondent.
The Chief Minister has appealed to all those who came in contact with him to get tested for the disease and quarantine themselves. In another tweet, the Chief Minister said that in his absence, the meeting to review the coronavirus situation will be held by Home Minister Narottam Mishra, Urban Development and Administration Minister Bhupendra Singh, Medical Education Minister Biswas Sarang and Health Minister Prabhuram Chaudhary. Meanwhile, there was a rush in the markets yesterday before the 10 days lockdown was implemented in the capital Bhopal. People had reached the shopping mall since the morning. People also faced traffic jam at all major intersections. Earlier, the state government has issued guidelines for the lockdown and said only essential services are allowed during this period. However, the movement of people has been strictly prohibited. To make any necessary movement, people will need e-passes. Madhya Pradesh reported 736 new COVID-19 cases in last 24 hours, taking the statewide count to 26,210, while 11 more patients succumbed to the infection. The death toll in the state went up to 791. Sanjeev Sharma, AIR News, Bhopal.
In Nagaland, the 7-day complete lockdown in the capital city of Kohima to curb the spread of COVID-19 came into effect today. The decision to impose the lockdown was taken following an emergency district task force Kohima meeting on 23rd of July. The lockdown will end on 31st of July. The state has so far recorded a total of 1,239 positive cases, with 701 active cases and 1 death. More from a correspondent.
Following a sharp spike in COVID-19 cases in Kohima, a 1-week complete lockdown in Kohima municipal area came into force from today. All categories of shop remain closed from today except pharmacies outside the containment zone. All private and commercial vehicles stayed off-road except for movement of medical emergency cases, and essential service vehicle with proper safety measures are being allowed. Interstate, inter-district and inter-village movement is also restricted, while all religious places will remain closed during this lockdown period. Funeral or last rite related gatherings have been allowed, but with not more than 20 people. Meanwhile, the commercial hub Dimapur will also undergo 8 days total lockdown starting from tomorrow till 2nd of August. For AIR News, Asonyo from Kohima.
In Mizoram, 29 new coronavirus positive cases were reported yesterday, taking the total number of COVID-19 cases in the state to 361. Of the new positive cases, 28 are from BSF and 1 person is from the Army. Presently, the number of active cases stands at 178, of which 141 are from different forces like BSF, Assam Rifles, NDRF and the Army, while 37 active cases are of civilians. So far, 183 patients have been cured. The COVID-19 recovery rate is 50.69% in the state. In Tripura, 106 more persons have tested positive for COVID-19 yesterday, taking the state's tally to 3,777. So far, 11 people died in the state due to the virus. Currently, the state has 1,617 active cases, while 2,131 patients have recovered. In Karnataka, the additional Deputy Commissioner in Chamarajanagar district, C.L. Anand, has set an example by joining other volunteers to offer dignified burial to a person who died of corona. More from our correspondent.
A resident of Bastipura in Kollegal died in the district COVID hospital. His sons and other relatives refused to bury the deceased. At this juncture, the Chamarajanagar district additional deputy commissioner C.L. Anand and a few other volunteers came forward to provide dignified burial to the patient who had died of COVID. Speaking to AIR, he said that this action is meant to send a positive message about the COVID patients.
Basically, I am from army, so I need to motivate people at this point of juncture. The own son is refused to accept his father's dead body or a mother's dead body. This is very much shocking. We have to be part of that people. So I just simply joined with them from the packing of the body to burying. So I just with the body. So to send that message. No need to panic about this virus.
Fear and lack of information have resulted in many families hesitating to see bodies of their loved ones. Sudhindra, AIR News, Bengaluru.
In Maharashtra, a 2-day Janta curfew has been imposed in Nagpur city from today in the wake of rising number of COVID-19 cases. Shops providing essential commodities to people have been kept open. The number of active coronavirus cases now stands at 1,188 in Nagpur. In Solapur, focus has been given on providing nutritious diet to COVID patients along with sessions of yoga. More in this report from our Mumbai correspondent.
It is proven that yoga is for mind, body and spirit, and by understanding its importance, a COVID care center in Solapur in western Maharashtra has started yoga sessions for the patients, wherein they are taught pranayam and different asanas. Further, to add to some entertainment quotient, music is being played on FM channels. The COVID care center, which has been set up in Maharashtra Tourism Department's Hotel Management and Catering Technology College, has a capacity to accommodate over 300 patients. However, at present there are 178 patients admitted to this center. The yoga session, which began from 20th of this month, is held for 1 hour from 7 to 8 in the morning, in which breathing exercises are also taught by professionals. Kunal Shinde, AIR News, Mumbai.
In Gujarat, the Food and Drugs Control Administration (FDCA) has raided yet another racket of tocilizumab and remdesivir injections being black marketed across the state. Our correspondent reports that 4 persons from Surat and Ahmedabad have been booked in this regard. A report from our correspondent.
The main accused behind the racket is Ahmedabad-based medical representative. FDCA officials seized remdesivir and tocilizumab injections worth a total of rupees 15.80 lakhs from the accused from Surat and Ahmedabad. From the labels, it was found that the injections were procured from Bangladesh and were illegally sold in Gujarat almost 4 times than the prescribed price. This is the second successful raid by FDCA in the last 10 days. Aparna Khun, AIR News, Ahmedabad.
In Gujarat, India's first honey testing laboratory has been set up at the National Dairy Development Board in Anand district. Inaugurating the facility through electronic mode yesterday, Union Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar said the new lab will test honey as per the norms specified by the Food Safety Regulator FSSAI. The purity of honey, adulteration, chemical substances, residues, heavy metals or antibodies can be checked. Mr. Tomar said that quality honey will boost exports and ensure better rates to farmers. The minister said that the government is encouraging beekeeping as part of its aim to double the income of farmers. He added that more infrastructure will be developed as the government has set aside 500 crore rupees to promote beekeeping businesses. This is part of the rupees 20 lakh crore economic package for those affected by COVID-19 lockdown. The Puducherry Legislative Assembly Hall has been locked after a Congress legislator, NSJ Jaibal, tested positive for COVID-19. Mr. Jaibal has been admitted to the Manakula Vinayanagar Medical College.
The hall was disinfected and alternative arrangements are being done to conduct the session. Mr. Jaibal was down with fever and cough for the last few days, and even then he attended the ongoing assembly session. He was sitting near to leader of the opposition, N. Rangasamy. The government will have to pass the finance bill to ensure salary to the government employees for July. Chandramohan, AIR News, Puducherry.
The Assam government has decided to reduce the home quarantine period of recovered COVID-19 patients from 14 days to 7 days. In an order, it also said that government will not provide essential items worth 2,000 rupees except to the BPL families, elderly people and to Divyangjan. Earlier, the Assam government provided essential items of 2,000 rupees to households of all COVID-19 positive patients who got discharged from hospital and had to spend 14 days in home quarantine. However, deputy commissioners are authorized to extend this benefit to other families including elderly, ailing, Divyangjan if required. The 8,081 active cases in Assam. You are listening to the Midday News on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. India achieves a remarkable feat of conducting more than 4 lakh COVID-19 tests in a single day. 10-day complete lockdown comes into force in Bhopal from today. India and the United Kingdom affirm their commitment towards free trade agreement. 2 terrorists killed by security forces on the outskirts of Srinagar. Relief and rescue operations continue in flood-hit Assam and Bihar. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
The 26th of July, 1999. The Army saga of valor leaves a lasting imprint on the sands of time. Vijay Parva salutes the gallantry, commitment, fortitude and indomitable spirit of our brave hearts. On the unscalable heights of Kargil, an exemplary edict was inscribed in blood. Never again maybe, for the sake of the motherland, the chance to make the supreme sacrifice. The enemy will be given a befitting reply. Each time, every time, come rain, storm, fire or ice. Vijay Divas. On the 26th of July, a grateful nation salutes her brave soldiers.
In the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, 2 terrorists were killed in an encounter that broke out between security forces and terrorists in Ranbirgarh, near Panji Nara in the outskirts of Srinagar city. According to police, a joint team of J&K Police, Army's 29 Rashtriya Rifles and Central Reserve Police Force aid a cordon search operation in the area based on an intelligence input. As the team approached towards the suspected spot, the terrorists fired upon them. The security forces retaliated, resulting in the killing of 2 terrorists. Talking to AIR News, Jammu and Kashmir Police DGP Dilbag Singh said,
ये एनकाउंटर आज अर्ली मॉर्निंग शुरू हुआ था, अभी खत्म हो चुका है। इसमें 2 आतंकवादी मारे गए हैं। दोनों की पहचान अभी की जा रही है और जो ऑपरेशन अभी वाइंड अप कर लिया गया है। ये खास इत्तला थी कि किसी जगह पे आतंकी छुपे हुए हैं, उसकी बुनियाद पर ही वहां पर कोऑर्डिनेट सर्च ऑपरेशन लॉन्च किया गया था, पुलिस और आर्मी सीआरपी मिलकर के। सुबह एनकाउंटर शुरू हुआ था जो कुछ घंटे चलता रहा। उसके बाद तलाशी अभियान हुआ पूरे इलाके का, जिसके अंदर 2 डेड बॉडीज terrorists की अभी तक मिल गई हैं और उनकी पहचान करने का सिलसिला इस वक्त जारी है।
The identity of the slain terrorist is being ascertained. Gujarat Anti-Terrorist Squad ATS has arrested 3 most wanted Naxals yesterday. An official release said the Naxals were trying to incite the tribals in the state. All the 3 were from Jharkhand. The ATS said the trio were booked under IPC sections 124A sedition and 120B criminal conspiracy. Our correspondent reports that 2 were nabbed from Vyara Taluka of tribal-dominated Tapi district, and the 3rd was arrested from Santarampur Taluka of Mahisagar district. ATS said that they were trying to incite members of the Satipati tribal community against the state government. Maoist literature was seized from them.
In Rajasthan, the state cabinet meeting is scheduled today to send a new proposal to the governor to call an emergency session of the state assembly. The proposal has been prepared after discussing 6 points in the state cabinet meeting held late last night. In a statement last night, Governor Kalraj Mishra said that no one is above the constitutional ethos. He said that the letter submitted by the state government for convening the assembly session did not give any important reason and agenda for convening the session. The governor sought details on the rationale for convening the session at short notice, ensuring the free movement of MLAs and the necessary management to call the session in view of the pandemic. The Congress is protesting at all district headquarters against the alleged conspiracy of the BJP. The Bharatiya Janata Party has criticized the entire episode. Union Minister Gajendra Singh Shekhawat said that Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot is diverting public attention from the real issues. In a press conference yesterday, State BJP President Satish Punia and Leader of the Opposition Gulab Chand Kataria said that unnecessary pressure was being put on the constitutional head of the state to demand an assembly session. India and the United Kingdom have affirmed the shared commitment towards free trade agreement between both the countries. The 2 sides will engage into early harvest schemes or limited trade agreements in a staged manner, marking preparatory steps towards the free trade agreement. The declaration was announced during the 14th Joint Economic and Trade Committee meeting, which was held virtually yesterday. Minister for Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal and UK's Secretary of State for International Trade, Ms. Elizabeth Truss, co-chaired the meeting. Minister of State for Commerce and Industry Hardeep Singh Puri and his UK counterpart, Minister of State for International Trade, Mr. Ranil Jayawardene, was also present during the meet. It was decided in the meeting that a deliberation led by Mr. Goyal and Ms. Truss will be held in autumn this year in New Delhi to carry forward the dialogue. Mr. Puri and Mr. Jayawardene will have monthly meetings to intensify the dialogue. Both sides also resolved to cooperate in the health sector, especially in view of the pandemic. This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates around the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
आओ नमन करें उनको जिनके हिस्से ये मुकाम आया। खुशनसीब है वो वीर जो देश के काम आया। कारगिल के वीरों को शत शत नमन।
भारत हमको जान से प्यारा है, सबसे न्यारा गुलिस्तान हमारा है।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will share his thoughts with the people in the country and abroad in the Mann Ki Baat program on All India Radio tomorrow. It will be the 67th episode of the monthly radio program. It will be broadcast on the entire network of AIR and Doordarshan and also on AIR News website www.newsonair.com and News on AIR mobile app. It will also be streamed live on the YouTube channels of AIR, DD News, PMO and Information and Broadcasting Ministry. AIR will broadcast the program in regional languages immediately after the Hindi broadcast. The regional language versions will be repeated at 8 in the evening. In Assam, there is no respite from flood fury as several rivers are flowing above the danger level. The current wave of floods has affected 27 lakh people and washed away houses and livestock. Dhubri, Gwalpada and Borpeta are among the worst affected areas. 1.17 lakh hectares of cropped areas are also underwater. Relief and rescue work are being carried out by SDRF and NDRF teams. Major portion of national parks and wildlife sanctuaries are also underwater. The Panchayat and Rural Development Department has informed that priority would be given to flood-hit areas in allocating works under MG Narega. Talking to AIR News, Principal Secretary J.B. Ikka said that work under MG Narega have been affected to some extent due to floods.
We are giving a lot of emphasis on rural development and basically Manrega is a priority scheme. And we have requested all the people who are interested in unskilled work, they should come forward and ask for job card. And if they have job card, they should demand for work. And accordingly, we are monitoring it. And so far, we've been able to create 1.57 lakh mandates from 24th April till today. But the recent flood has affected the work and but a lot of area is submerged under flood. So there we are not able to take it up. But what we will do is as soon as the flood water recedes, on a priority basis, we will take up schemes in the flood-affected area.
In Bihar, floods have wreaked havoc in 10 districts of the state. The worst affected districts are Darbhanga, Muzaffarpur, Gopalganj, Supaul, East and West Champaran. About 10 lakh people are reeling under the impact of flood. Water Resources Minister Sanjay Kumar Jha said 3 helicopters of the Indian Air Force have been pressed into service in flood-affected areas of the state this afternoon. Dry food along with essentials are being provided to flood-hit people through helicopters. Relief and rescue operations are on in full swing and 22 teams of NDRF and SDRF have been pressed into service. About 1 lakh affected people have been shifted to safer places and 15,000 people have taken shelter in 28 relief camps. Vehicular and rail traffic has been disrupted in the flood-affected areas. Train movements on Darbhanga-Samastipur and Narkatiyaganj-Sugoli rail section of East Central Railway has been suspended. Long route trains have been diverted on alternative routes. A total of 529 panchayats spread over 74 blocks of 10 districts have been affected by the flood waters. The rivers are flowing above danger levels, posing threat to the embankments. According to the Met Department, heavy rainfall is expected in the next 24 hours in the catchment areas of rivers flowing into Bihar from Nepal, as well as several districts in North Bihar.
Now let us take a look at today's weather updates. The national capital Delhi may have thunderstorm with rain. The minimum temperature is recorded at 25 degrees Celsius, while the maximum is expected to be around 35 degrees. Mumbai will see generally cloudy sky with moderate rain. The city had a minimum temperature of 26 and will have a maximum of around 31. In Chennai, the temperature will hover between 28 and 35. The city will see generally cloudy sky with light rain. Kolkata will have partly cloudy sky with possibility of moderate rain or thunderstorm with a minimum temperature of 27. The maximum temperature will be 33. In Jammu and Kashmir, the minimum temperature was 25 in Jammu, while the maximum will be around 35. The city is likely to have mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. In Srinagar, the temperature will hover between 21 and 33 degrees Celsius.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. India achieves a remarkable feat of conducting more than 4 lakh COVID-19 tests in a single day. 10-day complete lockdown comes into force in Bhopal from today. India and United Kingdom affirmed their commitment towards free trade agreement. 2 terrorists killed by security forces on the outskirts of Srinagar. And relief and rescue operations continue in flood-hit Assam and Bihar. And with that, we end the midday news.